Welcome to the Dawn of Intuition. I'm your host, Jasmine Kindred, and this is the time to awaken to a new way of being. Are you feeling an inner call to make the world a better place or to live more joyfully? We each have this inner compass guiding us to our own unique purpose and gifts. As an intuition and empowerment expert, I dare you to take action on that gut feeling or inner knowing. Intuition is simply a muscle that needs to be strengthened. Whether you need it personally or professionally, your intuitive insights create space for new opportunities. Stay tuned with me for tips and tricks on listening to those quiet whispers of wisdom, my next retreat dates, or how to work with me. Are you ready to live the life of your dreams with more joy and ease? The Dawn of Intuition starts now. Welcome everyone to the Dawn of Intuition, Waken to a New Way of Being. I am so excited today. I am welcoming my identical twin sister, Jasmine, on today's show. I have wanted to do shows with her for years, and I don't know what happened. The stars have finally aligned where she said yes, and I'm so excited to invite her on and just share stories. This is a really informal time to talk and share how different we are, how different we receive intuition. Today's topic is all about trusting our intuition. And we each have very different stories. We have very different lives. And I just want to invite, you guys into our world a little bit and hear how we have learned to trust our intuition. Now, welcome, Jasmine. I'm so happy you're here. You are one of the most intuitive women I know, and you use intuition very differently in your life than I do. And I just want you to introduce yourself to the audience. Tell us a little bit more about who you are.
Well, thank you. I'm very excited to be here, JD. So my name is Jasmine Kindred. I actually live in Saskatchewan, Canada, which is about a 3.5-hour flight to Quebec, where JD lives. So I don't get to see her very much, and it's actually a 2-hour time difference away. Now, even though I'm JD's identical twin, we do live completely different lives. I like to be an employee, where JD prefers to be self-employed. So I work as a mental health crisis worker in a very stressful work environment, often working overtime, whereas JD prefers to run her own business, live a very balanced lifestyle. I live in the city, whereas JD prefers her beautiful lakefront property in nature. I like the hustle and bustle of the city and all the socializing that I can do here. Whereas JD prefers that quiet being in nature and in solitude. Now, I want to debunk some myths about twins. I think people assume that we're the same person, but we do not understand each other's feelings or thoughts any more than others would pick up on their family and friends' thoughts. But when we were young, we were so identical that people couldn't tell us apart. So we actually started to making rules for ourselves, like I can only wear pink, JD can only wear green or blue. Mm-hmm. I can only have dark hair, JD can only have light hair.
Yeah.
What else? Like even just our personalities and our perceptions, our way of perceiving life is different. JD loves animals, especially her dog, whereas I'm allergic to dogs or pets. I love boat rides on lakes and oceans, whereas JD gets seasickness. I am very much in my logical brain most of the time, whereas JD really is in touch with her emotions. There was years where I didn't cry ever, and JD could just freely cry. So for the longest time, I didn't think I had intuition because I didn't get any gut feelings about things. Now, JD, I appreciate your introduction that you feel like I'm an intuitive person, but I feel like it was a long, hard road for me to hear my intuition. Like I actually feel like it was your natural born gift to have this strong intuition where it was really hard for me. Like, would you agree with
No, not at all. This is why this is so interesting you say that. This is actually why I'm doing these shows. I do a lot of talks. I have, I do talks on Insight Timer every week. I have lots of videos on YouTube. If anyone, I do podcasts. I'm trying to speak more and more about this, Jasmine, because it took me decades to have confidence. So I used to be the one always like going to healers, going to intuitives, going to readers, going like, oh, here's my money, give me a reading. And they would actually, all of them would all say, you're more intuitive than I am. Go home and trust yourself. And I'm like, I can't. Here's my money. Like I was always giving power into someone else. And it took me decades to have confidence in myself. And so this is
that?
why I'm doing these shows, because it's like I want people to save decades of mistrust in themselves, because this is a gift we all have. I'm no better. My intuition isn't stronger than someone else's. My message is I'm just simply more confident because I have enough experiences. So today, in today's show, time goes so fast. We could talk about this for days. We might have to do a couple shows just about trust. But I want to each share, how we've learned to trust our intuition, because in your work, you really need to trust your intuition. Tell us a little bit more about your work, Jazz.
Well, I'm a mental health crisis worker, which means that people who are feeling suicidal or, um, yeah, wanting to go to the hospital, I have to assess their mental health and make sure that I can help them in the community or determine if they do, in fact, need to be admitted into the hospital. So it is a lot around feelings of the other person. Um, But what I find so interesting, I want to circle back to us because what I find interesting is that you and I in, do have completely different intuitive messages. We receive intuition differently. And so I know for me, I've learned over the years that I receive a clear knowing. An idea just pops in my head without any prior knowledge of the situation. And I've had to learn how to decipher if that's a thought or if that's my intuition. What's your intuitive hits?
Well, you're saying two different things. So clear feeling is more clear sentient. And then you said an idea that pops in your head, which is more clear audience. So I
Mm.
believe there's many different clairs, clear feeling, clear hearing, clear feeling, clear sensing. There's many, clear seeing. But and I think we all have access to each of them, but it's like the love, it's like our, love language. Like, what are your top two? What are your most strong at? So learning to be, comfortable in knowing what you're stronger at. For me, normally I'm clairaudient, which does mean I hear a message. And part of it I read, it was so funny. I was reading this the other day to someone, and it's like, your clairaudience, if you can you mumble to yourself, or you talk like you say, you talk to yourself, you find yourself troubleshooting what to say, calming yourself down with words. And I remember one day actually, we had bunk beds when we were little girls, and as an adult, I'm not talking to myself, but as a young girl, I was always talking to myself. And I remember one day, um, I don't know, mumbling to myself, trying to calm myself down. I have a lot of anxiety as a child and even as an adult. And you were like, Katie, who are you talking to? and, and I didn't realize I was talking to myself. And it kind of just brought me back into the reality of, oh my gosh, I'm talking to myself. And maybe at that moment I stopped. And as an adult, I stopped mumbling to myself. Point is, I often will hear a message and it's very calm and neutral. It's like, go here, do this, stop this. The name of your title should be this. Call someone. You speak to this person. And it's very neutral, but it's still like, and it's not judgmental. So when you say, so you're saying two different things, and I'm sure you're both, but how specifically do you receive intuition?
Well, I don't feel like I'm clear hearing like you. I don't
Okay.
hear things,
Okay.
but I will see images. So I'm
Oh,
more of a visual.
okay. Clairvoyance. That's called clairvoyance. So
Okay.
those people who will visualize these, see pictures, you may get a lot of messages in your dream world. Um, and
Yep.
that's actually, and so I am actually in Quebec now because of my dreams. My human self was so resistant to this province. I didn't speak French. I have no family here. I don't have friends here. I don't like cities. I was like, no, 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 no. And I had enough dreams that came through that really guided me and opened me up to the possibility to move here. And so that's why I'm here, because of my clairvoyance through my dream world. But tell us more. Tell everyone more how you receive your clear seeing.
For me, like, yeah, if I ask myself a question, then I will get a flash of a visual scene. And so that's when I'll go, okay, that's it's not my imagination. It's an immediate flash. I'm not imagining or trying to be creative. It's just immediate. But I think my strongest is clear knowing.
Hmm.
Just I have this clear, for whatever, I just know I need to do something. And I don't know why. And it's hard for me to trust that. It's hard for me to think, is that a thought or clarity?
Yes. That's actually really, that one is really hard for people to trust, because
Mm,
people in the rational world are like, well, why? Tell me a reason. Tell me a reason. And
exactly.
Claire sentience are just like, I don't have a reason. It's just a clear knowing. I don't know why. And you don't have words to put into it, which takes time, which takes longer to trust for sure. But again, I want everyone to know, and I have all these programs online, I have all these things to learn, who are you, what are you, how do you know, how do you build confidence for each one. And then once you have the confidence, you don't, and when you have enough experiences, enough life experiences, you don't need to justify. You're like, this is my truth. It's not your truth. It's okay. I don't need to force my truth onto you. This is just me and my truth. And I need to respect that. And it's maybe hard for you to hear. There's always a way to say things, especially for others. If ever we get an intuitive hit for someone else, we can't be like, well, I just know. Well, people will be very resistant to it. It's like, well, I get the sense that I have a feeling that I don't know why, take it or leave it. How do you feel when I say this? Be gentle with the invitations for others, because people will be very closed off from it. But we could talk about our intuitive, and we will through the next few shows. We're going to be talking about our own stories and our own intuition. But you said something really interesting. You said, oh, JD, you were just born like this confidence. It's so weird that you perceive me like that, because it wasn't at all. We were like brought up exactly the same. Like literally, my mom's always asked the question about nature versus nurture. It's like, well, you know we're exactly the same bring up childhood, and we are just very different humans, very different missions, very different goals. I wanted to ask you if you remember the lesson about the corn maze.
I do. Yes,
Okay.
that was impactful.
Well, that was the first moment I learned intuition, actually. Like probably maybe the similar same time as you. So I'll give all
Mhm.
the listeners context. So we're young girls. I don't know what age actually.
We were
Um,
like 7 or 8.
okay, yeah, we were young, and we were in this huge corn maze, and we were really lost for like a long time at this point. Like we just kind of almost like, oh. And so my dad, in his logical left brain masculine, was like, I'm taking the map. I'm gonna just figure out how to get out. And then my mom's like, okay, girls, let's practice intuition. And we're like, okay, mom, She's like, we're just going to go with how we feel. I was like, what? We just follow our feelings and where we're drawn and guided. Like, so she helped us. She encouraged that in us. So we're going along this way and this way. And my dad's with the map and in somewhere in the maze, I don't know where. And then there was this profound moment in my life where we both turned the corners at the exact same time, and dad with his map and mom with us. And we had found the exit at the exact same time. And for me, it was this light bulb moment of, wow, intuition is as intelligent as the logic. And up until my years of my life, I'd already been in school and maybe already been programmed think that, logic is the only intelligence. And even in adulthood, I was like, oh, I'm not as intelligent, or I would be almost hard on my intelligence. And now I'm coming to a confidence of emotional intelligence. There's intuitive intelligence, which I think is much faster than a logical brain now in my life. And I run my business through intuition. I actually wrote a book about that called Intuitive Business Connections. And, learning the benefits for me, that was one of the, one early memory as a child of learning about intuition. How was that experience for you?
Yeah, that was a magical moment for me too. It was profound to learn that there's no right or wrong way. You will get to the end result. There's no good or bad. It's just how you choose to live your life. And we did it the fun way. We got to do it just relaxing, stress-free, with ease. Whereas my dad was quite stressed at the end and
Mm.
relieved, we got to just enjoy the experience.
Yeah. No, that's so fun. And that's the thing is today, because the theme and the topic today is trusting our intuition. And so I want to share stories, really, some really like light stories of ways to practice how to trust our intuition. So when we practice with fun ways, easy ways, light ways, and we get these, experiences that build our confidence, then it's easier when we receive messages of quit your job, leave that relationship, move to a different city. Like, it's scary. I came to Quebec with two little backpacks, suitcases, not backpacks, two suitcases and nothing. And it was a really hard time. But, or move here or buy this real estate or do that with my company. Like these are, as an adult, I need to make some serious decisions now. And I do it because I have enough stories. So, little things I want the listeners to practice. For example, just this week, my latest story, my most recent story is I'm shopping and I have on my list what I need to buy, and then I get, oh, buy creme brulee, and I'm like, I always do this. I have creme brulee for my retreats as a little treat one night, and I'm like, okay, my retreats are months away. I don't need creme brulee. I don't want this in my house. I'm trying to really eat really clean this month, especially this month. And it was like, no, no, no. My rational mind was like, no, 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 no. It was like, buy creme brulee. You need creme brulee right now. And I was like, fine. So I bought it, and I was like, I don't know why, but I trust that little voice. And it's like such a insignificant thing, but again, just a fun way to practice. 2 days later, I have a friend unexpectedly call me from another city, hours away, and she was passing by my house. JD, hey, do you want to go for a walk with me? Wonderful, I would love to. So she stops in, has a walk. We go for a walk, and then she's like, "Well, I brought like a little bit of supper. I know you hate cooking. Do you want to eat with me?" And she brought food, and I was like, "Well, I would love that." And I'm like, "Hey, and I have creme brulee for dessert. Would you like that?" She's like, "I love creme brulee." And I went, okay, my intuition was preparing me for you to come. I, in my rational brain, had no idea you were planning on coming. But somewhere in the ethers, I don't know where intuition comes from, but it's like, okay, somewhere it knew that I needed to be prepared for my friend for that supper, which was a nice reminder. Um, but I know that you have some really, really neat stories about trusting your intuition. Do you want to share some of yours?
Yeah, I can share some of mine. But just to answer your question, I practice trusting my intuition every single day when I'm driving to work. I always ask myself, where do I park? Because I work downtown, parking is very limited. If I don't get a parking spot, it may take me 20 minutes to walk to work. And so I always practice that. And it's just that just to continue practicing that trust for sure. Makes my life easier when I can check in with my intuition. But I think one of the most recent stories was when my intuition actually led me to your Reconnect to Your Intuition retreat. So, as an employee, I only get a certain amount of vacations a year that I have to plan a year in advance. Now, I had a trip coming up, but the trip got canceled unexpectedly. So, I was about to ask my supervisor to take those vacation days back to be used for another time. I just had this little thought that popped in my head unexpectedly saying, do not cancel your vacation days. So I've learned from JD, trust your intuition. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to leave it. I don't know why I'm supposed to leave that vacation week, but well, a month later, JD came home unexpectedly for a family funeral, and she invited me to her retreat. And I was like, my logical brain's like, no, I just saw you. I don't want to spend all this money to fly across the city, across the country to see you. But then I got a little message, book the flight. So I'm like, okay. So I started checking flights. There's a seat sale. I'm like, okay, well, this is good. Maybe I should go. So I booked the seat sale. Right after I booked that seat sale, the price went up $1,000. I was like, okay, I'm obviously in the flow. I obviously need to go to JD's retreat. So now I've arrived at JD's Reconnect to Your Intuition retreat, and I didn't realize how burnt out I was. Like, it's like, oh my gosh, yes, my higher self knows I need to be here. I logically don't want to be here. I want to be working, but on some soul level, I need to be here. And I just found the week so rejuvenating. And it's amazing how resilient people can be within just a couple of days of being out of a stressful environment and living a clean life. The way that you host your retreats are so healing, just with your yoga, your meditation, your nature walks, your it's those little small compounding daily habits that made me feel so good. And so I can't even imagine what your 25-day retreats are like, because 1 week is profound and so impactful. I think you're offering 25-day retreats this summer, but you only have one spot left in June and one spot left in July. Is that correct?
Exactly. This is, yeah, I'm only opening it up for a couple people this summer. This will be new, actually, but this is really my dream. So people who really want to rechange their habit patterns, so this is interesting. Like, we're each on purpose. Jazz is saving the world, and I'm as a service provider, and I'm helping save the people who are saving the world, who are burnt out, the burnt out professionals, the moms who are burnt out that need to just recenter and reconnect. I offer just this space. It's just like, I have nothing to teach, but it's like, hey, recenter, reconnect, recharge. You have all the answers within, with you just, turning off the busy, turning off your phone. So this is kind of the space I provide people. But yeah, I'm glad. Well, I'm definitely glad that you felt recentered and recharged after this retreat. Yeah, because you're like my ideal target market, is these busy, burnt out professionals. And we do daily coaching, and even with you, we did a whole action plan. Maybe that's why we created some online videos for you, and now you're like, yep, I can do some interviews with me. So I'm like, wow, this is amazing. So amazing.
Most definitely. And it was because your coaching was very helpful, but it's also because when I can just relax and unwind, that's when my intuition comes forward. And I begin to really have that clear knowing and that confidence that I know my path. And that's why I loved your segment on intuitive eating. Like, just really talking about the importance of taking care of ourselves first in order to trust our intuition. Because for me, if I'm stressed and in my chaotic, busy brain, I'm still getting intuitive hits, but I'm not trusting them. I just think, oh, I think it's stress, or I get just, woo. So it's when I'm calm and peaceful, that's when I learn to trust the messages. And that's what your retreat center allows me to have. It creates space for me to just hear the messages and then move forward. Because I love what you say when intuition is with us at all times, but it's gentle and subtle. It's just little nudges. And so I get those nudges all the time, but then my ego steps in immediately after with fear or self-limiting beliefs that restrict me and make me kind of start questioning things. And then I get all muddled, and then I just let go of my intuitive hunch because I just don't know anymore. Whereas your retreat is like what gives me the confidence that I am in a balanced state and I can trust my inner wisdom.
Yeah, very well said. Yeah, and I have this strong belief system that nature heals everything. So I've had people come to me, even friends. They leave the city, they come up, or they fly. I have guests who've flown across the ocean actually to these retreats, and some of them have been like on anti-anxiety, anti-depression on the plane, like they're fighting with the the security guards. Like they just come in with such, their nervous system is so unregulated. And then we come and we do like restorative yoga, which is the yoga of conscious rest. I had one gentleman, he had never cried in front of his partner, and like the first restorative yoga, his nervous system relaxed into the bolsters and he just let himself, and all the stuff comes up, and so anyways, we hike in nature every day, and we reconnect to nature because it's extremely healing. And just being mindful, I value spirituality and my intuition and I value that more. But really, when our body temple is stressed, anxious, in fight or flight, we're not in a receptive state to be open to receiving that intuition. So it's like, first, my retreat is like, let's come together and let's just relax the nervous system. And then when the body, when I am very sensitive to food, if I love sugar and I love chocolate and I love all these things, but if I eat that, my energy immediately crashes. Or if I'm eating, all the healthy, spirulina and all the chia seeds and hemp hearts and all the things that my guests have never actually ever tried. They've never tried this. We have like vegan ice creams, and I have like, my vegan chocolate mousse, which you really love. Like these things that is like, no, what? Eating healthy can be fun, can be delicious. It's simple. When the body feels good, then we feel, especially for you, if you're more of a feeler, if you have gut feelings, if your stomach is full of, like, I don't know, heavy foods, you're not going to maybe receive that intuitive guidance through your stomach as much as if you're just eating a really simple, healthy life. So yeah, that's the other episode we did. I did on intuitive eating, but we didn't even get to half our stories, Jasmine. We're going to have to end here. We're going to have to do trusting your intuition part 2 now, because there's too many stories. I really want to like continue right from this point on to part 2, because there's so many cool stories that I want to share with this audience. So thank you everyone for listening. I look forward to seeing you all, or in a couple of weeks. I encourage you to check out my website, which is www.intuitivebusinessconnections.com. You can see my retreats this summer. They're filling fast. There's still some early bird rates, so really check that out quickly. You can see how to work with me one-on-one. You can see my online programs. You can see my YouTube videos. You can buy my book. Really, everything's on my website, www.intuitivebusinessconnections.com. Thank you so much for listening, and see you next time. Thank you for listening to The Dawn of Intuition. I'm your host, Jasmine Kindred.
Tune in every first and third Monday at 9 a.m. Pacific on Transformation Talk Radio as we learn to listen to that quiet whisper of wisdom from our higher selves. Dare to dream bigger, take inspired action, and live your authentic truth. Live an intuitive life, feeling more joyful and empowered in everything you do. For more tips and tricks, follow me online at www.intuitivebusinessconnections.com.